Let's get started with Stage 2 of UBD. Understanding by design is purposeful thinking about curriculum planning. Desired results, evidence, and the learning plan make up the 3 stages of this type of planning. Now that you have learned about desired results in Stage 1, I will explain the sections of Stage 2. The assessment evidence is Stage 2. For this stage, a teacher must think like an assessor. Evidence must be acquired to determine the extent to which students have achieved the identified knowledge, skills, and understandings in Stage 1. The assessment evidence stage helps determine that the learning, i.e., enduring understandings, has taken place. A shift of assessment should be made to more open-ended, complex, and authentic tasks and projects. This ensures a more in-depth understanding of the target knowledge and skills have taken place. That is why the first section of the unit in Stage 2 is the performance task section. The performance task is an authentic and complex way of making sure students have conceptually understood the information and skill you wish them to acquire. Notice the performance task is given by name, includes a description, and the standard or standards that are assessed. Most tasks also include a direct link to the task. For Unit 7, Polynomials, I've included 2 very different tasks for you to view. The first is Paula's Peaches. This task focuses on the exploration of a concept of how both factors of production, which in this case, peach production, which looks at the number of trees and the average yield per tree, and how they are both affected by the same variable, which in this case is how many trees that are planted. For this situation, or this contextual situation, the more trees that are planted is actually going to affect the average yield per tree. It's going to decrease that average yield. The task uses a scaffolding approach as it opens with simple linear relationship of how the average yield per tree is dependent directly on the number of trees planted. It uses a contextual situation to build the student understanding of how the product of 2 linear relationships creates a quadratic relationship. Students should understand that a quadratic relationship cannot be solved by traditional inverse operations, and they must demonstrate through this task their understanding of how to use factoring techniques to solve quadratics. As you see here, based on the standards listed, this task really does go above the standards for this unit, as it is, as I said, a scaffolding task. It is using standards from previous tasks. If we click on the link to view the task, we open it up. We see this task comes from the Georgia State Department of Education. Go ahead and minimize this a little bit. This task, as you page through, you'll notice it's 32 pages. It is very in-depth. It gives a lot of information about how to give this task, information about possible student misconceptions, what the task is assessing. As you see, it is fairly lengthy. It is scaffolded, though, based on the questioning techniques within the task itself. And once you get to the factoring, it uses the area model for factoring, which you may even want to, in instruction, use algebra tiles to help students see that area model. The other task that I provided for you is much shorter and much less contextual in nature. It's a very non-standard way to assess whether students understand how to expand a factored form of a quadratic into standard form. If we look at this one, as I said, it's much shorter, a little bit more abstract, not really contextual at all. Again, it's just taking 2 factors, or a quadratic in factored form, and having students then determine what is the coefficient for the quadratic term, the linear term, as well as the constant. So it's just really a non-standard way of approaching a student understanding or assessing student understanding of how to expand a factored form of a quadratic. As students get comfortable with this, I would encourage you to maybe create other problems along these lines and maybe extend their understanding of expansion. This is one that I used for an assessment that I gave. Students had to solve for A, B, and C based on this quadratic expansion, which you can see that it definitely involves a lot more in terms of simplifying, solving, and substitution. The second section of assessment evidence, stage 2, is other evidence. This section includes the traditional assessments such as teacher observations, quizzes, and tests. Student products also serve as a valuable source of assessment information. Formative assessments can be quick checks to see if a student is progressing on the concepts such as exit slips and journaling. Assessment is not limited to this list. Teachers can use simple creative methods with Post-its and/or use available technology as well. Hopefully this quick overview of Stage 2 of the UBD unit, Evidence Gathering, has helped you to become a bit more comfortable and confident in using the Understanding by Design way of planning.